Yeah, hey, Blind Guy doing stuff here, and today one of our videos we're going to do today is going to be on charter schools. Now, charter schools are kind of in the news a lot, and we're going to talk about what is a charter school and what are the three things I have seen and noticed the real purpose of charter schools. So, charter schools are schools that instead of being public, and they're not private because they do take public money. They're different than private schools in that they do take public money, but they have a board of directors and a CEO, so they're run like a corporation. So basically, they are privatized schools, charter schools. And since the schools are run state by state, the charter school movement has been moving through the states. We have one here in Washington. It's just kind of barely moving along. We have a strong teachers union here that's been sort of fighting against it. Other places have charter schools that are spreading. I think my home state of Alabama has charter schools, or they're trying to get charter schools. So you might be familiar with this, and you might know someone or be in a charter school or have kids in charter schools. Now, having said this, I want to just make it clear that I don't think all charter schools are bad, and I don't think having like a school that is like all computer-based learning is like a bad thing, or have a STEM academy that is just all STEM school. I don't think that's a bad thing. What I do think bad is the three reasons why I have seen, and I think that from things I've read and noticed and listened to, reasons that charter schools do exist. Now, charter schools, what they'll tell you is, okay, we want to educate all kids. Parents need choice. Public schools aren't working. I want to kind of push back against that public schools don't work thing. Because if you remember correctly, up through the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and even into the 80s, when there were no charter schools, we did have some private religious schools out there, Catholic schools mainly. But most people went to public schools, and look what the United States became and did. I mean, we had the space race, people went to the moon, supposedly. We had the military build up, we had the engineering and the infrastructure, we had Silicon Valley, we had computers, we had all the innovations that happened in the United States over the past 50 or 60 years. I would say 90% of those people behind all that went to public schools. So this idea that all of a sudden public schools don't work is false. It's not true, and it's been made up. And the reason why public schools don't work is because of the funding paradigm we have of public schools. And some people may know, public schools are funded on a local level through property taxes. Most places, that's the way it's funded, plus federal money. And I talked about this a little bit on the video yesterday. This is the biggest problem with the public schools because let's say you have a neighborhood like mine, which is it's South Tacoma, Washington. It's an okay neighborhood, but you know a lot of people rent. A lot of people don't have houses. A lot of people in poverty. So there's not a lot of property taxes being collected here in this neighborhood. So necessarily the school is not the best school out here. I mean, I can go up to the school here in Tacoma in the summertime and there's weeds growing and everything in places. But I can go to a school over on the other side of town and there's not weeds growing all on the sidewalk and stuff. They take care of it. They have the money to pay people. And so they're funded by local levies and local property taxes. Fund education. And this is the problem, and it's breaking our public schools. And speaking of breaking our public schools, that's one of the reasons why charter schools exist. This is what the powers that be, the people who came up with these charter schools to begin with, are using them for, is to break public education. Because the problem the powers that be have with public education is pretty common sense. Everybody's educated. If everybody's educated and has a good education, then it's harder to move people around or manipulate people or put false fake news on the TV and people believe it. So the charter schools are being used to break the public schools and break the teachers union. So the right wing, they hate the unions, the teachers unions especially, because in Washington they hate the teachers union because it wields so much power. And honestly, I mean, I'm a teacher and I wasn't actually I'm a certified teacher, so I've had the union actually help me in the past, and the union here in Washington is very strong and good, but sometimes it just kind of seems like they kind of push a little too much, and I don't always think it's in the best directions. And we have some things going on right now as far as taxes and stuff that the union's trying to push that I don't necessarily agree with. So, but the charter schools, they're trying to use them to break the charter schools or break the unions, because the unions can't usually don't come into the charter schools. So that's the first reason we want to get rid of the public schools. That way, and I just went over the reasons. Now the next one is, we've talked about this before in some of my videos, is privatize the profit and make the risk public. And so and so as I said, charter schools still get state money, and they still get local money coming into them, even though they're being run by a board of directors and a CEO. And as most corporations, usually the CEO, most of the profits and the money goes up to the top of the CEO. And happens is since all the money's going to the top, paying the salaries, there's not as much money down towards the bottom to take care of the schools, to pay the teachers. Now, people will say, oh, blind guy doing stuff, but the public schools are that way too. They pay these administrators exorbitant prices, and it's just so horrible, and public schools have that problem too. Well, yeah, they do. But what's the big difference between a public school and a board of directors? I can catch the bus and go downtown and go down to the school board down there and get it, and they'll give me time to go down there and rant and rave, tell them, hey, you don't need to be paying administrators. And I can organize and get 50 people to go down there and say, hey, you don't need to be paying administrators so high, and I can keep organizing. And it's a government function, and if my school board representative doesn't listen, guess what? I can vote them out. I can show up at their opponents' places and get their opponent elected. So the school board is responsive to the people. The CEO in a board of directors in a charter school is not responsive to the people. So they privatize all that money into the into the board of directors and the CEO's hands, and then they make the risk public. And the risk here in education is your kid, that kid, those kids, they don't get proper education. So that's the risk. Now the third reason, and this is a big reason for me, because these kind of things just drive me crazy. It has to do with the First Amendment a lot, but it also has to do with science, is charter schools, and you may have seen some stories about this down in Louisiana. Charter schools, for the most part, as I said, they're not controlled by the people. They're controlled by that board of directors, and so therefore they can teach whatever they want to. So here in Tacoma, if Tacoma needs a new math curriculum or a new science curriculum, it has to go through the school board, and it has to go through some, I don't know the exact mechanisms how it works, but from being a teacher and just knowing how this works, it has to go through committees, and it has to go through people looking at this, and it has to go through experts, and the science curriculums have to go through, they have to be vetted and tested and looked at, say, okay, this is okay, this is not okay. But not so in a charter school. So they got charter schools down in Louisiana and here and there, probably all over the place, teaching kids that the earth is 6,000 years old. They're teaching kids that the United States was founded as a capitalist country. They're teaching kids that the United States, they leave out a whole bunch of parts about the education. There's charter schools I've read down in Texas. The Texas curriculums, and this is happening in the public schools, but probably happening in a lot of the charter schools, they're trying to teach that, there's no such thing as slavery. That slavery never happened, or they don't even mention it. Or as I was taught down in Alabama in the public schools, and this is a bad thing, but it's there, and again, it can be changed. Public schools are different than charter schools because in public schools you can change things. I was taught, slavery was just all good. The slaves were just kind of sitting out there having a picnic, and then they get up in the middle of the morning and go out and work, and that's totally not true. So and what happens is down in Louisiana, you got let's say 50 kids. They've all been taught that the world is 6,000 years old, and that people walked on the earth with dinosaurs, and that the United States is a Christian country, and the United States was founded as a laissez-faire capitalist country. On and on. They've been taught all these things. Well, guess what? Those 50 people are going to grow up. They're going to have maybe 50 families. They're going to have 200 or 300 kids. And then so they're spreading all that misinformation and false knowledge through our society. So what you end up with through these charter schools is an entire group of kids in a population that don't know all the same things as all the rest of us. Most of us were all taught these things in our public school. Then you got this other group over here, they're taught totally different. And so you end up just having this problem where people can be easily misled, people can be easily fooled because they don't know the scientific method, because they don't know that the world is not 6,000 years old, because they haven't been taught that the ice caps are melting and Louisiana is losing a football field of water of land every day. So this is the problem with charter schools. Those three things: they break public education, they take money away from public education, they privatize the profit and publicize the risk, and they don't have a vetted curriculum, or they can teach whatever they want to. One of my longer videos here, thanks for checking it out. I am a certified teacher, math teacher, actually, math and science middle school teacher. I don't do it anymore, but education is sort of a passion of mine, so I will be doing more videos on education whenever they come up. I am the Blind Guy Doing Stuff. Thanks for subscribing, and welcome to our new subscribers, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Studio mode. Stop recording button.